I'm Fechtmeister Heinrich of the Kingdom of Adenvelt. Today, I'm going to cover drills, specifically drills for two people, why we need to drill, and a little bit of methodology. And I'm going to show you a handful of drills to give you an idea of the direction that you can actually go. Why do we need to drill? Why do we need to drill is because drilling creates muscle memory. It creates that reaction that happens essentially without thinking for your newer and even your older fighters. When you drill, it is strongly recommended that you do your best to keep the appropriate form. If you're specifically doing a specific type of thrust, or if you're doing a specific type of parry, or if you're drilling footwork, you want to do it at a speed that is going to benefit all of the people that are engaging in the actual drill. Clearly, I mean, these drills can be done with multiple people. If you've got multiple groups of two, that's absolutely fantastic. Drilling with intent to create proper form, so you execute the proper form in proper time. Various types of drills. I mean, footwork drills are a simple way to start, where you have one individual who calls what it is that the person's going to do, whether it's advance, slope left, slope right, retreat, step right, step left. You can add additional things, thrusts, parries, etc., into the mix as well. I'm going to show a video essentially of this in action, utilizing two of my demonstrators. That would be Her Ladyship Awa and Master Taka. What you'll probably hear is Taka calling some things, and Awa will execute said things. Okay, so this is pretty easy for two people to do, as long as they both understand the terminology of what an advance is, what a retreat is, what a parry is, etc. You want to make sure that both you and the person that you're working with understand one another and aren't trying to execute something else. In events of mess ups, as particularly if you're working with a new fighter, or if they're both new fighters that are working together, it's relatively easy to correct on the spot and do it in such a way that's where you're not berating the person that you're working with, because they never want to work with you again. So it's pretty simple. If you call a parry 2 and they don't execute parry 2, you can either address it there on the spot, or you can just continue to call parry 2 until they figure it out. Mirroring the person that you're working with is generally a good idea as well. This way they can see it executed essentially in the same way. So essentially, sometimes it may mean either switching the hand that you're used to normally doing, or working with somebody who is an alternately handed fighter, such as Awa, who generally fights left, and Taka, who fights right. But making corrections on the spot is generally pretty easy, and these can be done. You can just switch back and forth, go through 10 or 15 calls, and then the other person changes. A quick bit of terminology. Down here we use, most of us are military or ex-military, and we learned how to train people through the Army or through the Navy or wherever. So sometimes I'm going to use some terminology you might not be familiar with, especially when we start moving on to the next couple of videos. I will use the term agent and patient agent. The agent is the person who initiates the action, and the patient agent is essentially the person waiting to react in this particular case. Using this sort of terminology makes it easier to say, hey, you're going to be the agent, you're going to be the patient agent. This is the action that the agent is going to take. The agent is going to thrust. The agent is going to state where they're going to thrust. You guys are going to move at half speed. And the patient agent will then react with the appropriate parry. Either you're going to parry in this specific way if they're new, or if they're an intermediate or advanced fighter, you may not need to explain to them which is the way that they're actually going to parry. Okay, so now there's going to be a part where we now have Master Taka and Lord Luke Walker of Sky. They will switch back and forth from being agent and patient agent. I believe Taka is going to start as the agent, and Luke is going to be the patient agent to start with. And it's essentially, this drill is just Taka is going to throw a thrust, the agent is going to throw a thrust, the patient agent is going to throw a parry. There's a point where the patient agent actually responds with a parry and goes immediately into the thrust. But that's because, Luke is just, doing what comes naturally, essentially, at that point. Right here, they're switching. That's a very simple, that's a very simple drill. It can be done easily using two people. The more advanced your fighters are, the more advanced you are when you're doing these. You don't necessarily need somebody to call where it is that they're going to throw their thrust to. If you're more an advanced fighter, if they're a newer fighter, you generally are going to want to say, well, I'm going to fire high to the outside. You're going to throw that shot. They're going to make the appropriate parry. You can move on to additional things. You can make these more complex. I've got a more complex version. And essentially, the agent in this one is going to throw a thrust, and the patient agent is going to parry and respond with an attack. You can do any number of style of drills, any length of style of drills. If there's a particular thing that you want to work on, if you want to work on beat parries, you can do these drills with beat parries. If you want to work on specifically on responses to beat parries, then you can tailor it to work specifically with beat parries. It could be. They're just simple drills that be done with anything, and you can make them essentially as complex as you need. These kind of drills they get boring after a time. Hey, we're always doing them. Why are we always doing this particular drill? Why are we always doing these sets of drills? And From the Army, I learned that 80% of your victory comes from the base 20% of your knowledge. So those basics is going to be what carries you through most of your victories. That smallest 20% of your, hey, this is how you parry, this is how you thrust, this is how you footwork. All those basics, if you are sound in the basic fundamentals of what it is that you're doing, it doesn't matter if it's fencing, it doesn't matter if it's armored combat, it doesn't matter if it's archery, it's going to be those basic things are going to be what carry you through to victory most of the time. You're going to run into your Don Todds in the list. You're going to run into your Takas in the list, where you're going to need to pull out more than that 80% to win, but against your common fighter. And we have a lot of common fighters in the SCA. There's a lot of common fighters in the SCA. There's a lot of common fighters in HEMA. They're just the meat and potatoes of the fighting community. Your basics are going to carry you through most of your wins against those people. Absolutely. So I want to come into a different, one more thing, and that is drills for decision making. It's creating a drill for decision making is pretty simple to do. It's really good for intermediate and advanced fighters. Not necessarily something you want to work on with brand new fighters. But to be able to create that decision-making process where they can take those basic skills, their parries, their thrusts, etc., to create decisions on their own, essentially. So what you do is you set up the agent to throw a shot. Maybe the patient agent is going to parry and then counter, and then you're going to turn back to the agent, and the agent is going to find a way to defend and answer on their own. You're not going to give them any heads up or anything. This will allow them to take their toolbox, dig into their toolbox, and find the tools that they want to use to be able to create an idea in their own mind of what tools are going to be useful in these sort of situations. So I'll move on to this video where we've got Taka acting as the patient agent, or as the agent, and he will also be doing the decision making for responses, etc. Taka is going to be the agent. He's essentially going to throw a shot. Philip is going to parry. He's going to respond with an attack, or he's going to counter with an attack, and then Taka is going to make some sort of decision, essentially to defend and or finish the fight. Bad decision making. Okay, so by creating decision-making moments in your drills, you're in part creating ownership of that drill for each individual that's actually involved. And of course, any of these drills, they would swap back and forth. Philip or Lord Luke would get his opportunity to be the agent and to be able to do some decision-making. You always want to make sure that you're switching back and forth when doing drills. That way, all parties get the opportunity to train them. Doesn't matter how good you are versus how good your opponent is, versus the person that you're working with. you always want to, one, give them the opportunity to engage in all parts of the drill, as well as you yourself take part in all parts of the drill. Again, it's that you might think that you don't need to practice the basics anymore, but we all always need to practice the basics. It doesn't matter if you're brand new or a member of the Order of Defense. Again, the basics are the key to absolutely everything that you're going to do, and drilling and training these things are going to be important. That's what I've got for videos. You're going to find that people are resistant to drilling. Some people just want to show up and not drill. This is why, essentially, I mean, you're always going to find one person that you can work with, and that's fine, which is essentially why I'm showing drills for two. What we've found down here in our barony with regular drilling is you're going to get enough people, and eventually you're going to have more and more people who are willing to drill, especially once they realize that that those people are just showing up to fight, are being left behind, both skill-wise and knowledge-wise. Does anybody have any questions?
When you do decision-making drills,
yes.
How do you narrow? Do you attempt to narrow the decision space, or are you giving people sort of free choice on that last decision to go wherever they want?
I'm generally giving people free choice on that last decision. I'm letting them work through it at their own pace. I mean, these were faster than what most people are generally going to do drilling at. These are both intermediate. One's an intermediate, one's an advanced fighter. When you've got fighters who are not as skilled, I mean, clearly you're going to want to let them take it slower, and even take the opportunity. Okay, the moment of decision shows up. You might want to allow them to take the time to play around with it. Their first decision may not be the best decision. Their second decision might be better. They might make a third decision on the third time that's not as good, so they may go back to that second decision. Allowing them free rein to be able to learn for themselves, hey, I do this thing, this is going to be the results, I find generally is better than guiding them to that actual decision.
Do you have the agent repeat the same action multiple times so the patient can try a different?
Absolutely. If that is the desire of the patient agent, then absolutely. The agent's job is to essentially deliver something, sometimes repeatedly, so the agent can take that opportunity to make the decision and work it out on their own. So we are essentially done. I want to thank everyone for showing up.